savage surprise attack by two chimps on an American graduate student.
He's killing my friend!
Who's killing your friend?
My chimpanzee!
Conservatives will depict nature as a place of combat and competition, but it's just a conservative projection of their ideology on nature. Many anthropologists were extremely unhappy with the bonobo and tried to marginalize them because their story of human evolution doesn't turn around peace, it turns about warfare and male bonding.
Give us some examples of animal behavior that prove this kind of inherent morality in species.
Chimpanzees, for example, if someone is distressed because they have been attacked or they've seen a snake or whatever it is, then others come over and embrace them, kiss them and calm them down. But empathy is absolutely central. How could you have a moral system in human society if you don't particularly care about people? I feel that if we recognize the sentience of animals, there's an obligation to treat them better.
I think it's a pretty strong biological basis I do philosophy, and kind of what people talk about as in throughout the history of philosophy, something that's constantly seen as like the golden rule of reciprocity. Like in the Bible, for example, do unto others as you would have done unto you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's basically probably like the basic biological root of that.
Yeah. The reciprocity rule is just as essential for human morality as the empathy. Those are the two pillars for me of human morality.
So I just want to move it on now to gender, if that's okay with you, because that I loved different. And I think you take quite a unique position in what's quite like a polarized discussion, which is either sex and gender are synonymous, and that's kind of the essentialist position. And then you have positions which take gender to be completely cultural, say positions such as Judith Butler's, who say gender's a performance. Could you just closely outline exactly how you think that interaction works for us? And then maybe we can talk about the basis and the reasons why you think that.
Well, the reason we have a gender duality is because we have two sexes. And so there's more than, because people say sex is binary, and gender, of course, is not binary. Gender can be all over the place. Gender is usually divided in masculine, feminine, and everything in between. But sex is usually divided in male, female. But there is, of course, an intermediate category of maybe 1% or 2% of people who are not easily classified as male or female. So sex is biological, and gender cannot be completely independent of it. I think if we had no sexes, biological sexes, I don't think anyone would have come up with the concept of gender. So the gender is not a cultural construct. It's related to our biology, even though it gives you more freedom because it has more expressions and more variation than the sexes.
And I think I found your argument for, your argument, I'd say, against transphobia really interesting, because usually it relies often upon a cultural interpretation of gender, let's say. And I was wondering if you could outline, I really liked how you talked about how it's actually gender can be quite resistant to social norms in a lot of ways.
Yeah, so I describe in my book a female chimpanzee, Donna, who from the very beginning of her life acted a little bit like a male. And the older she got, the more she looked like a male. And she hung out with a male. And she intimidates others the way males do. And she was very well accepted in the group, even though she was quite different in her behavior. But she was not really violent. And I think the only thing chimps object to is individuals who are overly violent. For the rest, they are very tolerant of whatever variation exists. And so maybe Donna was trans. I cannot ask her how she identifies. But trans people, it's very small. It's less than 1% of the population. Trans people is probably a biological thing that happens in their brain. There is some evidence for that, is that the brain of, for example, a trans woman resembles more that of women than of men, even though she was born as a man. So we think there's a biological basis to it, and that in other primates we find a lot of gender diversity too, like homosexual behavior is extremely common. The bonobos are usually called bisexual because they don't particularly care about who they have sex with, it seems. So I think that same gender diversity we see in human society, if you look carefully, you're going to find it in other animals too.
Yeah, I mean, the idea of bonobos being bisexual for me is fascinating. But just to linger one more moment on the transgender conversation, and you mentioned the biological basis for transgenderism, and I think there's the study about the bed nucleus of the stria terminalis, and I was wondering if you could explain that just a little bit, because for me the idea of transgenderism being based and located in biology is revolutionary.
Yeah, so Dick Swaap, a Dutch neuroscientist who has also worked on homosexuality and the brain, he proposed that it's possible that during pregnancy, the fetus differentiates its genitals first in male and female, and its brain later in the pregnancy between male and female. And that these two processes sometimes get disconnected. So you end up with the genitals of one sex and the brain of another sex, which is what will cause you to be transgender. And so that's one of the biological theories that exists. There may be people who are influenced by others who are not truly transgender, but they're talked into it by others. There's, of course, a discussion in the US at the moment, and then they regret later. But if you look at the data on regret, it's very low. It's just a few percentage. So most kids who, at the age of, let's say, 4 or 5, say that they are, let's say it's born as a boy, and they say, I'm a girl, they don't return. They don't change their mind. They say, I'm a girl. From that moment on, they are a girl in their mind. And so this whole discussion has gotten out of hand, I think. And I understand that when it comes to sports, we have different issues. But that's a very specific and very small proportion of everything that's going on, I would say.
Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying the episode. I just wanted to drop you in a word from our sponsor Manscaped. You can use the discount code LOAF to get your discount, because even a lion needs to tame its mane.
Get the Performance Package 5.0 Ultra from Manscaped now. Stay fresh with no cuts, so that your baguette leaves no crumbs.
Hey guys, we really hope you enjoyed that episode with Dr. Frans de Waal. If you'd like to see another episode just like this one, you can click right up here. Take care.